These few that I have here, since 2009, it is long past time to fix this simple problem with this simple amendment.
Gentleman reserves his time. Gentleman yields back his time. The gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I seek time in opposition, although I'm not necessarily
opposed. Gentleman recognized for 5 minutes.
I want to say thank you to the gentleman for bringing this to the attention of the House. And just from an informational standpoint, make members aware that in February this House passed what we call a printing resolution, which calls for the printing of the pocket constitutions that he's talking about. The other body now has that piece of legislation, and like a lot of other pieces of legislation that body finds itself in possession of, nothing has happened. So I think that's inappropriate for some of us to encourage the other body to take up the printing resolution, solve the problem. And actually, I was told just this morning that I think the point of your amendment has actually had an impact, because the other body, I am told, has indicated that they plan to move ahead with the printing resolution that we sent them early this year. So I think all in all, that's been a positive.
Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, it would.
As I said in my remarks, the problem is not money. The problem is the authorization. That could be accomplished by this resolution, joint resolution from the Joint Commission on Printing to the Government Printing Office, or it could be resolved through the appropriations, as I'm attempting to do now. And I should point out, as the gentleman refers to the other body, it is out of pride of this body that we say we will do what we should do, and the Senate will do what they will do, and we will try to get together to move legislation forward. It is our job here today to do what we can do and to educate the public about this ingenious system of government that has been so successful for 2 centuries. We should do this. And I yield back.
I'd like to yield 2 minutes to Mr. Lundgren, the chairman of the House Administration Committee.
The gentleman's correct. We did pass a resolution over to the other body. It is customary that either house determine what their printing needs are, but we do have to normally have a resolution for it. Under Mr. Harper's direction, with the Joint Committee on Printing, we actually reduced our request by 50% to save money, but also to give adequate printing of what we thought was needed. The other body initially determined they didn't need any more copies. They have now reassessed that, and at the last minute have indicated to us that they see the need for doing that and have promised us that they will act on our resolution. So this is a hope that maybe this is one thing that they can agree on sending out of their body this year and over to us. But in the meantime, the gentleman's amendment is appropriate. Let us not lose the Constitution over this.
Gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the ranking member, Mr. Honda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I won't need the full 2 minutes because I think that the proponent, Congressman Holt, had done an excellent job in expressing our sentiment about the importance of the pocket constitution. I appreciate Chairman of the Authorizing Committee, Congressman Lundgren, and my chairperson for taking the initiative and moving forward on this and prodding the other body to make sure that they act on the Resolution 90. So I would urge all members to vote yes on this amendment. Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Florida. Gentleman yields back his time. All times expired. The questions on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New Jersey. Those in favor signify so by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. It is now in order to consider amendment number 4, printed in House Report 112-518. For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 4, printed in House Report number 112-518, offered by Mr. Scalise of Louisiana.
Pursuant to House Resolution 679, the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment that I bring forward zeroes out the Open World Leadership Center. This is a subset of the Library of Congress. This is an agency that's received millions of dollars over the years. In fact, $123 million over the past 10 years to bring foreign government leaders from countries like Russia and others to the United States, something that might be a good idea, but frankly, when you consider the fact that we're running massive deficits, have a mountain of debt that keeps building up, we have to cut back programs that we just can't afford to do, and clearly this is one of those programs. And I do applaud the chairman and the committee for reducing this account. And although it's been reduced, there's still $1 million remaining in the account, and ultimately what we do is completely eliminate that funding. And the reason that we're doing this, if you go back, and we've looked at the congressional record over the years, going back to 2009, Congress has been very clear to this agency, the Open World Leadership Center, that it's time for them to stop receiving government money. Just look at the comments from April 21st of 2010. At the time, Chairman Wasserman Schultz said, "Our subcommittee's stated goal has been that we would begin to wean you off your reliance on legislative branch funding, so it is somewhat difficult for me to understand why you have asked for $2 million more in funding." This is an agency, Mr. Chairman, that has shown an unwillingness to work with Congress, who for years now has said it's time for you to stop getting government money. This isn't some new development. This is something that Republicans and Democrats have agreed on for years, and it's finally time for that government funding to end. And if they want to continue doing the work they do, they can still go seek private funding, which, by the way, Congress encouraged them to do years ago, but they refused to do that because they still have the ability to get government money. As long as we leave $1 million in this account, we continue to allow this agency, the Open World Leadership Center, to function when we've now, as a policy decision, finally said it's time for them to go. So with that, I would reserve the balance of my time.
Reserves the balance of his time. Who seeks time? The gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I seek time in opposition.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Everything the gentleman said is true, except for the fact that what we are doing in this bill is actually shutting down the Open World program. When you do that, there are some costs involved in the final shutdown, and that's why last year this was funded at $10 million, and to shut down the program, we basically took away $9 million, left $1 million there to terminate the existing contracts that we have. There's some final compensation that has to be paid. They got to close some offices. There are potential unemployment claims. And so the point of this bill is to do exactly as the gentleman suggests, and that is to shut down this program, which probably at one time was a very worthwhile program and was a very, I guess, program that you could afford. But in today's world, this is a program that under this legislative subcommittee doesn't seem to be the right place to find funding. There were attempts in the past to fund it under the State and Foreign Operations Subcommittee. But bottom line, the goal of this committee is to shut down this program because we can't afford it anymore. And even if you pass this amendment, it still costs $1 million to shut down the program. The Congressional Budget Office scores it as $1 million. So I would say we ought not to pass this amendment. We ought to continue the process that's been started to shut down this program, and these dollars will be used to do just that. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves his time. Gentleman from Louisiana.
Thank you again. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Did the gentleman want to also speak?
The gentleman from Louisiana controls the time.
Okay, I would continue to reserve.
Gentleman reserves his time. Gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes to the ranking member, Mr. Honda, California.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The gentleman's amendment attempts to cut $1 million in the bill for the Open World program. And I want to emphasize the word attempt. I also want to emphasize that it's not my intent to support the idea of shutting down the program. It's the issue of the process of the gentleman's resolution. Now, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the official bookkeeper of Congress, this amendment would net to zero. They believe that the organization would need at least $1 million to ramp down their organization. That is the CBO's impartial analysis. That means that this amendment has no effect. Maybe the gentleman did not know that, or maybe he disagrees with the Congressional Budget Office. But the Congressional Budget Office is a final arbiter, and it has concluded that this amendment will not save 1 red cent. And again, this is a process of zeroing out, and you need that money. But let me emphasize again that it's not my intent to support the idea of closing down the program at all. It's just my comment on the process. And I would like to yield the remainder of my time.
From Florida controls time.
Okay.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Virginia, the former ranking member of the legislative branch.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank my friend from Florida very much. Mr. Chairman, not only do I oppose the amendment, I don't think we should be shutting down this program. This was a bipartisan program whose principal sponsor was Senator Ted Stevens from Alaska. And what it does is to give voice to leaders within countries who are suffering under oppressive forms of government. I just met with our Ukrainian delegation. My friend Mr. Crenshaw may have had an opportunity to meet with them as well. They come through the Congress of the United States, the executive branch. They learn how our government works. And at a time when we're spending 2/3 of $1 trillion on military security, this is the kind of program that can promote smart power by working with leaders in other countries. They want freedom of the press. They want democracy. They don't want to. They can't stand what communism did to their countries, but they don't want the kleptocracy of Russia. They don't want Russian domination. They want to be like the United States, and they want to come here and learn how to adopt the best principles that empower our democracy. It's a good program. It's not much money, and the dividends that it yields are far greater than anything it costs us. So I certainly agree we ought not eliminate the $1 million placeholder, but I wish we would not eliminate this program at all, because it's a program we ought to be proud to fund. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Louisiana.
I'm prepared to close, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would first like to address some of the issues that were brought up during this discussion as it relates to the idea of having exchanges with people from foreign countries. That's why we have a State Department. And in fact, the State Department has programs that does just that. The Open World Leadership Center is a program run by the Library of Congress. If this program was so important to national security and relations with foreign countries, then the State Department would pick it up. But they haven't chosen to do that because they already do programs that are similar. But they probably do it a lot more effectively, and it's a lot more coordinated with the State Department because it's run out of the State Department. So now you have a separate duplicative program that Congress, both Republican and Democrat members, for 3 years now has been saying it's time for you to go. And I go back again to the June 2009 committee hearing. The committee recommendation begins a phase-out of legislative branch financial support for the Open World program. That was the committee recommendation in 2009. Republicans weren't running the House back then. That was under Democrat leadership. And then, of course, in 2010, the chairman at the time, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, from the opposing party, said, quote, "Our subcommittee's stated goal has been that we would begin to wean you off your reliance on legislative branch funding." Yet that same year, they asked for $2 million more. This is an agency that just doesn't get it. And this represents what's wrong with Washington. When we're going broke, we are going broke right now. Every single day, every dollar spent here in Washington, 42 cents of that dollar is borrowed money. Borrowed from countries like China, sending the bill to our kids and our grandkids. And here we've got a program that even Congress, Republicans and Democrats, said it's time for the program to end. And yet they still have $1 million sitting in their budget. And so what you would have is 7 employees. They have a staff of 7 people. So you've taken $10 million away, and I applaud again the chairman for doing that. So you've said, okay, there's going to be no more program. There will be no more exchange. That's been a decision already made by the committee, the subcommittee. But you're leaving 7 people to be paid to do absolutely nothing with money we don't have. Now, how many small businesses across the country that have been facing these tough economic times are given a $1 million check by the federal government to close down? Unfortunately, so many businesses have closed down because times are tough, but they don't give $1 million from the federal government to do it, especially with money borrowed from China. And now I would go to address the CBO issue. We actually asked CBO about this amendment. We asked them Monday. Here's a letter from CBO. On Monday, they said, quote, "At this point, we estimate that your amendment would have no score." So there is no cost to doing this. But it's $1 million less that we'll be borrowing from China. And at some point, they say $1 million here, $1 million there. Pretty soon, you're talking about real money. We need to start making these tough decisions. And frankly, this one isn't that tough. We ought to eliminate this program, and I yield back the balance of my
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Florida.
Yield back.
Gentleman from Florida yields back his time. All time having expired, the questions on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Louisiana. Those in favor signify so by saying aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to.
Mr. Chairman,
Gentleman from Louisiana.
I'd ask for a recorded vote.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Louisiana will be postponed. It is now in order to consider Amendment Number 5, printed in House Report 2112-518. For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I rise to strike the last word. I have an amendment.
Did the gentleman offer his amendment?
I have an amendment at the desk, and I ask
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 5, printed in House Report number 112-518, offered by Mr. Moran of Virginia.
Pursuant to Resolution 679, the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Moran, and a gentleman opposed to the amendment, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Virginia.
Chairman, this amendment, which I am offering jointly with Congress members Welch and Pingree, would ban polystyrene products in our food service facilities here in the House. Mr. Chairman, in 2011, the new Republican majority in the House instituted the use of polystyrene containers in our food service facilities. This amendment would prohibit the use of funds to purchase polystyrene products for use in the House cafeteria and eateries. Removing polystyrene would show our concern for the health of our visitors and employees and for the future of our environment. We should be using recyclable and biodegradable products and avoiding polystyrene foam packaging. Over 20 years ago, McDonald's and other for-profit fast food restaurants replaced polystyrene foam with recyclable and paperboard containers. The House of Representatives is the only place within the Capitol complex to revert back to styrofoam products. Neither the Senate, the Library of Congress, nor the Capitol Visitor Center Food Services use polystyrene products out of concern for the health of their patrons. We should be leading by example, and this amendment provides a way through which we can show environmental responsibility to the thousands of constituents who visit our offices each year. We should be concerned about their health and that of our employees. Polystyrene is also very difficult to recycle. Most polystyrene containers end up taking up inordinately large amounts of space in landfills or incinerators. Problems with polystyrene include cancerous chemicals used during manufacture, minimal recyclability, enormous space taken up in landfills, and toxic byproducts released during incineration. An EPA report on solid waste named the polystyrene manufacturing process the 5th largest creator of hazardous waste. And toxic chemicals leak out of these styrofoam containers into the food and drinks they contain, and thus endanger human health and reproductive systems. That's our employees and our visitors to the House office buildings. With this amendment, we can reduce environmental hazards and landfill waste and protect the public's health. I encourage my colleagues to support what I think should be a no-brainer amendment, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Virginia reserves his time. The gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chair, I claim time in opposition.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I just want to say that we don't use any appropriated funds to buy polystyrene containers. I just want to make that point, that we don't use any appropriated money to do that. But I want to recognize a valued member of the subcommittee, Mr. Calvert from California, for 2 minutes.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Speaker, appreciate the time. My friend, and he is my friend, Mr. Moran, amendment is certainly misguided and costly and a step backwards. Let's talk about the facts. The House composting program in the last Congress increased our operating costs by $500,000 a year, all for the luxury of using, remember, weak utensils that literally melted in your soup, and ineffective cups, soda cups, not including the extra paper insulators to keep your hands from burning once you use those ineffective paper cups. The cups, by the way, were 2 to 3 times more expensive than polythyrene foam cups. And the environmental benefits. Peer-reviewed studies confirm that foam food and beverage containers, which are recyclable, and by the way are still used by McDonald's, use significantly less energy and water than their supposed eco-friendly alternatives. They use fewer raw materials, create less solid waste, and the carbon emission differences are nominal. If Mr. Moran would like to eliminate polythyrene in the House, he needs to be right up front with the American people and let them know how much this is going to cost them. In fact, this product costs less and is a better product. And I think that's something that we ought to do here in the government, is find ways of saving money and produce a better outcome. With that, I'll yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say to my good friend from California, this amendment doesn't reintroduce the composting program, and it doesn't deal with those utensils, which I admit some of them were not the best, but this deals with the polystyrene containers only, which is the greatest source of concern for the health of our visitors and our employees. At this time, I'd like to yield 1 minute to our friend and colleague from Maine, Ms. Pingree.
Gentlelady from Maine is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to my colleague, Mr. Moran, for allowing me to speak and joining him with this amendment today. I rise in support of this amendment, which would prohibit us from using taxpayer money to stock the House cafeterias with polystyrene, or as most Americans call it, styrofoam. Maybe to some this seems like a small thing, but stocking our cafeterias with styrofoam sends a terrible message. When I was first elected to Congress in 2008, it was such a pleasure to see biodegradable materials in the cafeteria, cardboard containers, paper cups, even bamboo forks, which maybe didn't always work right, but they still were recyclable and biodegradable. We ate out of containers that looked a lot like what we now see in most fast food restaurants. When the Republicans took control, all that instantly changed, and we are back to eating from styrofoam. When my constituents read about it, they were frankly quite shocked. They couldn't imagine why Congress was moving backwards. Styrofoam takes hundreds of years to biodegrade and is a suspected carcinogen because of the chemical it leaches into food and liquid. I urge my colleagues to support our amendment to get rid of styrofoam in the House cafeterias, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished chairman of the House Administration Committee, Mr. Lundgren.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank you for yielding. Last year we had this argument. Last year it was criticism of the fact that I had approved a contract that got rid of the composting and instead started a pilot project, I believe, in the gentleman from Virginia's district, where we are taking all of this and we are converting it from waste to energy in the gentleman's district, one of the exemplary programs in the country. We're not putting this into landfill. We are actually converting it. And in fact, these products are one of the best means of creating energy from waste. The second thing is, this is a condemnation of an industry that employs about 50,000 Americans around the country that deal with the production of this product. And I would say they have come to me and said, can you at least defend us with the facts that the FDA has to approve use for sale of these products that come into human contact? If it were carcinogenic, it would not be allowed. The fact of the matter is we used common sense. We actually took up a recommendation by the Democrats when the Republicans took over. One of the recommendations that was made in writing was that we eliminate the composting program because it cost too much money, it was unsuccessful, and in fact it caused more energy than it was supposed to save. We did that. I thought you were going to thank us for following your suggestion. We even put it in the gentleman's district. Proud employees of the gentleman's constituency are reducing this waste to energy, and yet the gentleman comes before us and says, the program that you have in my district, doggone it, we just don't want it. Sometimes people around here can't take yes for an answer.
From California's expired. The gentleman from the state of Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, certainly the gentleman makes a compelling argument here in terms of employment, but it is clear that when you talk to people who regularly use our cafeterias, that they are concerned about the health effects of polystyrene containers. And in fact, there's a Facebook group that's been created called Stop the Styrofoam Invasion, Bring Cardboard Back to the House Cafeteria. Now, I'm sure these gentlemen see that effort on Facebook, but, you know, communities across the country have rallied against polystyrene products, and bans have been instituted statewide in California, Massachusetts, Illinois, Maine, Washington, Oregon, New Jersey, New York. Now, these are not statewide bans in all of these states. Many of them, they're cities and counties, but this is not something that's unique to the people supporting this amendment. Across the country, people are realizing that it is not healthy to use polystyrene as a material. It does take up too much land space in many places of the country, and we really ought to support this amendment. Thank you, Mr.
Time
Chairman.
of the gentleman's expired. The gentleman from Florida.
Yield back my time.
Chairman yields back his time. All time is expired. The questions on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Virginia. Those in favor signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The amendment's adopted.
Ask for a recorded vote.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Virginia will be postponed. It is now in order to consider Amendment Number 6, printed in House Report 112-518. For what purpose does the gentleman from Mississippi seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment Number 6, printed in House Report Number 112-518, offered by Mr. Harper of Mississippi.
Pursuant to House Resolution 679, the gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Harper, and a member opposed to the amendment each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mississippi.
Mr. Chairman, this amendment would limit the printing of paper copies of the U.S. Code for the United States House of Representatives to 50 copies. As chairman of the Joint Committee on Printing, I have been working to cut wasteful printing, and the U.S. Code is a prime example of what needs to be cut. Every 6 years, the United States Code is reprinted to incorporate new statutory changes. Currently, the 2012 edition of the U.S. Code is slated to be printed by GPO in fiscal year 2013. However, the printing and production of the code takes anywhere from 14 to 16 months, guaranteeing that the code is outdated before it even is in print. Mr. Chairman, my amendment would reduce the House's allotment from 213 to 50 copies. This reduction will ensure the long-term preservation of hard copies in the House while freeing up over $369,000 for FY 2013, money that would be better spent modernizing and improving access to legislative information, including the Code. The printed copies of the U.S. Code in the House are used less each day because of increasingly available, more up-to-date electronic alternatives. This amendment is a simple, overdue reduction in unnecessary printing. I want to thank Chairman Lundgren as well as the appropriators for their support of these efforts, and I encourage my colleagues to support this amendment. Yield back.
The gentleman yield back his time.
Will the gentleman yield?
If I may, I'll yield to the gentleman from Florida.
Thank you for yielding. I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think it's well-intentioned. I think it's a good idea. I'm just curious as to how you decided to have 50 copies instead of 213.
Well, there's certainly an assessment of the number of copies and the need, and each agency that controls those and gets those. And we believe that on the distribution of those copies, as you look at it, that those agencies that get them, which include 43 copies to the House Ledge Council, 48 copies to House Law Revision Council, 13 copies to the House Committee on Appropriations. The House Legislative Resource Center receives 4 case copies, House Parliamentarian receives 3, and then the list goes on from there as how we have those. I certainly do believe that the House Committee on Appropriations, for example, is not going to need 13 full copies for those. Those are things that even going back to law school days, you learn how to share the available copies and sets.
Yield.
Yeah,
how many copies will the Appropriations Committee get under your amendment?
Well, under the amendment, we do not determine how many copies each will get. If we do a pro rata reduction and the numbers that go to each one, I think we could come to an agreement as to what those numbers would be.
I just want to say I think that's a very good amendment.
Thank you, sir.
Gentleman yields back his time.
I will, if I may, I'll reserve the balance.
Gentleman from Mississippi reserves his time. Who seeks time in opposition? Seeing none,
I yield back.
Gentleman from Mississippi. Gentleman from Mississippi yields back. All time having expired, the questions on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Mississippi. Those in favor signify so by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
For a recorded vote. No, I'm sorry. No recorded vote. Apologize. Thank you.
The amendment is adopted. For what purpose is the gentleman? It's now in order to consider amendment number 7, printed in House Report 112-518. For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona seek recognition?
I have an amendment of the desk designated as number 7.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 7, printed in House Report number 112-518, offered by Mr. Flake of Arizona.
Pursuant to House Resolution 679, the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Flake, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona.
I thank the gentleman. This amendment would simply prohibit members, committees, and leadership offices from using taxpayer-funded MRAs to purchase online advertisements. These ads are little more than a tool to boost name identification. They blur the lines between official duties and campaign activities. I believe, and I think most of us would concede, it's an inappropriate use of taxpayer money. I know that some will stand up and say we've got to advertise town halls and whatever else that we're doing. Let me tell you, all the online advertising that is being paid for by the taxpayers from members' offices right now, town halls and those other notices represent a tiny fraction of that. Most of it are things like this, ads reading, Congressman X is fighting the madness. You know, click on this, and then it sends them to their official page, just boosting their name ID. Representative X is working to lower gas prices by increasing American energy production. Find out more and like my page today. Another one, Congressman X is committed to creating jobs, driving down spending, and shrinking the size of the federal government. That's pure electioneering or campaigning. The taxpayers have no reason to fund that kind of purchase in online advertising. We already see the abuse that takes place with regard to franking. When you receive in the mail a 4-colored glossy that you can't even tell the difference between that these days and a campaign mailer unless you look and see the very, very fine print that is there on the bottom of the mailer, paid for at taxpayer expense. Enter the internet world, and the potential for abuse is that much greater. When members can target ads, say if I wanted to run for governor next, I could say that I want an ad to pop up or my name to pop up when somebody types in a Google search Arizona governor. I would submit to you that that kind of thing is happening right now. And we've got to stop it before it brings a dark cloud over this body. We all know what happened with earmarks in years past. It got so rampant and the corruption set in that we had to get rid of it completely. Let's stop this before it really balloons. There is abuse going on right now, but let's stop it before it gets big. I urge adoption of the amendment and reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Arizona reserves his time. The gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I claim time in opposition.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the House, if the gentleman has a problem with communicating with constituents, then I think he ought to take his gripes to the Franking Commission. I think everyone knows in this House that members have an office account. And the philosophy is that you have an office account, you run your office. You are held accountable for how you spend those dollars. Some dollars are spent for salaries, for equipment, for rent, and for communications. And when the communications are paid for with taxpayers' dollars, they are subject to review by what's called the Franking Commission. That is a bipartisan commission made up of Democrats, made up of Republicans. And before any kind of communication is put forward, whether it's a newsletter, maybe it's a postcard, before anything goes out, there are very strict guidelines that the Franking Commission uses to decide what goes into those communication pieces. And under the rules, members are allowed to use their MRA, their office account, that's funded by taxpayers' dollars. They can, if they want to announce they're going to have a town hall meeting, they can send out a postcard, they can send out a letter, they can actually buy advertising in a newspaper as long as it meets the requirements of the Franking Commission. And they are very strict about how big your name can be and how many pictures you can have. You can also buy time, buy advertising on the radio if you want to say, I'm going to have a meeting and we're going to decide whether or not to appoint people to the military academies. They can do that. And you can use the Internet for that. And quite frankly, in today's world, that's how most people get their information. Now, I'm not a tech guy, but I understand that the social media is how a lot of young people and old people as well get their communication. And if you want to communicate through the Internet, then you have the same rules and regulations that apply to the print. You have to go to a Franking Commission and they approve it. Again, Democrats, Republicans, and they're making sure that these are official notices. They can direct you to your own website. Most members have a website, and they can announce things on there. So it seems strange to me to single out this new social media where the world seems to be going. That's how people get the information, and it's a lot cheaper to communicate on the Internet than it is by mailing a letter or mailing a postcard. And so it seems to me this is just an effort to micromanage how the members use their MRAs, and you single out the one area where the world seems to be going. So it's like a step backwards to say you can communicate, you can buy advertising on the radio, you can buy an ad in a newspaper as long as you comply with these franking rules, but you can't do it with the Internet. It just seems like a strange way to go. Once again, all of this is subject to review by the Franking Commission, and they're made up of Democrats and Republicans to make sure that all of that is appropriate. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Florida reserves his time. The gentleman from Arizona.
I would simply respond there. The gentleman mentioned that people want to announce town halls and whatnot. That is a tiny, tiny fraction of what occurs, and the money being spent, taxpayer money, through franking on the Internet. What it is you have things like this. I'll just read a few. This from a member. Like my Facebook page to find out what I'm doing to create jobs, reduce spending, and put our economy back on track. You know, how is that necessary for the taxpayer to fund? Come on, let's get real here. Another one. I want to know, do you support a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution? They don't really want to know that. Members just want to get traffic and name ID to their web page. Now, I'm not a Luddite here. I mean, I have my own web page. I have a Facebook account. I do all of that. But I do it with where it's appropriate. Campaign funds, not official funds to campaign. The gentleman mentioned that we ought to just, kind of trust the member. There's a Franking Commission. Let everybody do it. I should mention in 1997, when this bill came to the floor, members thought there's some abuse going on with the franking of mail. And so requirement was put in to put in the printed at taxpayer expense. That was done by amendment on this bill on this floor in 1997. Also, there was abuse with franking too close to an election. So with an amendment in this bill on this floor in 1997 was put a requirement that there's a 90-day blackout period where you can't do it. So there is a recognition that sometimes you go too far here. And I can tell you, members are going too far. I would invite anyone to go down to the Franking Commission and take a look at what's going on. Take a look at what members are sending. So we're going to be voting on this quickly, and I would submit that if you're coming to the floor or watching this debate, you don't want to be on the other side of this issue, because we will be here sooner or later banning this practice. I hope it's sooner rather than later. I reserve the balance of my time.
He reserves his time. Gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from California, the chairman of the House.
The gentleman has 1.5 minutes remaining.
I would just like to advise all members that we have full-time employees working under the direction of members of the Franking Commission and the House administration every single day that review the product of the offices of members. There's a limitation on the number of references you can make to yourself. There's a limitation on the number of pictures you can have. There's a limitation on how large the pictures can be. There's a limitation on some of the language that can be. We try not to censor, but we try to make a distinction between that which is partisanly political and that which is a communications to our membership. And if someone is trying to suggest that we ought not to be allowed to ask our constituents, what is your position on a balanced budget amendment, I'd like to say you have that right. If you don't want to ask that question, you don't have to ask that question. But that's within members to be able to do that. And frankly, I think the idea that somehow we ought to limit our communications to the old-fashioned snail mail is just wrong. What we attempted to do was use the principles that have been established by the Franking Commission over the years to the new technology. That is simply what we have done. It is no more or no less. If people want to complain about particular messages that have come out, we can look at that. And in fact, we turned down many suggested pieces to be sent out by members of Congress. We have tried to just adjust to the new communications, and the gentleman's amendment would not allow us to use new means of communication.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Arizona.
May I inquire as to the
30
time
seconds.
I would just say,
recognized for 30 seconds.
We have a Franking Commission. They are making determinations like this, and we're still getting this stuff. We're still getting people saying, Congressman X fighting the madness, like my Facebook page now. I would suggest that the bipartisanship of this Franking Commission is part of the problem. Both parties say they're doing it, we'll do it too, and we'll both turn the other way. That's why we get into problems with this. And I'm just saying, please, get ahead of the curve here and get ahead of where the taxpayers are going to be on this issue. And I urge support of the amendment and yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. All times expired. The questions on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Arizona. Those in favor signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The amendment's adopted. Gentleman from Florida. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Arizona will be postponed. No. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, proceedings will now resume on those amendments printed in House Report 112-518, upon which further proceedings were postponed, in the following order. Amendment number 1 by Mr. Gosar of Arizona, Amendment number 2 by Mr. Brown of Georgia, Amendment number 4 by Mr. Scalise of Louisiana, Amendment number 5 by Mr. Moran of Virginia, and Amendment number 7 by Mr. Flake of Arizona. The chair will reduce to 2 minutes of time for any electronic vote after the first vote in this series. The unfinished business is the request for a recorded vote on Amendment number 1, printed in House Report 112-518, offered by the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Gosar, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the noes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 1, printed in House Report number 112-518, offered by Mr. Gosar of Arizona.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for a recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
The House right now voting on a series of amendments to the legislative branch operations or appropriations bill, providing $3.3 billion for operations of the House and associated offices. That $3.3 billion total is 1% less than current funding and about 5% less than requested. Members right now voting on the Gosar Amendment that would reduce funding for the U.S. Botanic Garden here in Washington. This is the first in a series of 8 votes. We're expecting a procedural vote and votes on final passage this morning, with the House possibly wrapping up business by early afternoon. The first recorded vote of the day in the House is on an amendment to the legislative branch appropriations bill. Members voting on the amendment brought by Congressman Paul Gosar of Arizona, which cuts funding for the U.S. Botanic Garden. It's a 15-minute vote. Again, this is the first in a series of 8 votes, and we are expecting a procedural vote and votes on final passage, with the House possibly wrapping up business early this afternoon. While the vote's underway, President Obama right now is holding a briefing, making a statement on the economy, calling on Congress to work on his jobs and economy legislation. This briefing is still underway. We will have it for you after the President finishes during the series of votes that continues here in the House. While the vote is underway, a discussion now on a topic dominating conversation on Capitol Hill, the impact of leaks of secret government information. We talked about it on this morning's Washington Journal.
Right now is Michael Hirsch, who is a chief correspondent for the National Journal. Mr. Hirsch, last Friday morning on this program, we showed viewers this story on the front page. The off-lead, Obama ordered sped-up wave of cyber attacks against Iran, and it's about revelations that the U.S. in combination with Israel were behind the so-called Stuxnet worm that we heard about a couple years ago. Seems like this town has gotten pretty agitated about this in the ensuing days.
Right. Well, that was a tipping point, and it was a pretty big one. I mean, that was a huge story. You know, reporters and pundits had speculated for a couple of years about Stuxnet. There was widespread belief that the U.S. and Israel were probably behind it because it had done so much damage to Iranian centrifuges, apparently. But this story came out and quoted numerous officials as saying that, yes, in fact, the Obama administration signed on to a program begun by President Bush called Olympic Games, which was very much of a covert effort to launch cyber attacks. And that was, you know, quite a huge news break. So it's sort of reached a tipping point in this town where people on Capitol Hill in particular, and especially Republicans, are wondering why we've had a number of leaks culminating in this one about covert operations. Previously, there were stories about the Obama administration's drone program and the way that targets are identified, and indeed whether the president himself personally oversees a so-called kill list, as well as other leaks. So there was a lot of discussion about how this is all happening.
Well, you say mostly Republicans, but yesterday there was a bipartisan press conference that was pretty lengthy with both Democrats and Republicans, both House and Senate Intelligence Committee. Let's listen to Dianne Feinstein, who chairs the Intelligence Committee on the Senate side, who's a Democrat, what she had to say.
When people say they don't want to work with the United States because they can't trust us to keep a secret, that's serious. When allies become concerned, when an asset's life is in jeopardy or the asset's family's life is in jeopardy, that's a problem. The point of intelligence is to be able to know what might happen to protect this country. And we can't do that if the intelligence is no longer kept with strict scrutiny within the number of people that need to have it.
Mr. Hirsch, what happened after that was they went into a session with James Clapper, who's the National Intelligence Director, to talk about the leaks and what can be done about them. Also, the White House was responding to calls for a special prosecutor. Where do you see this all going?
I think there are certainly going to be hearings. You know, the fact that Dianne Feinstein, who is a Democrat and chairs the Intelligence Committee, has said she's outraged by what she's seen, that it's the worst she's ever seen in terms of leaks, means it's going to lead to something. But as of now, we have the White House appearing to reject calls for a special prosecutor, even though it appears that the Justice Department's National Security Division has at least partially recused itself from an investigation, which is why some Republicans were calling for a special counsel or a special prosecutor. So we have something of a standoff there right now. We'll see how that goes and whether this dies down. I mean, this is not the first time there's been some furor over leaks to the press. They do tend to die down rather quickly, but I think that we'll hear a lot more in congressional investigations that are to come without, I will add, probably knowing what the real source of the leak is.
Well, let me show you and our audience. So a lot of these stories came out in the New York Times, and it looks as though they were as in the course of reporting for David Sanger's new book, which just came out this week, Confront and Conceal Obama's Secret Wars, the Surprising Use of American Power. For example, the Stuxnet story was reported in this book, and he talks about it. Also the drone story, and one or two of the others that are on the list of 5 that you mentioned that are concerns. I want to go to the sources, a note on sources in the back, and read to you what he says. The bulk of the reporting in this book was gathered through interviews with senior administration's officials and dozens of their deputies and assistants, conducted after I took a leave from the Times in the summer of 2011. Almost every senior member of the President's national security team was generous enough to sit down and talk through their experiences, some more than once. Most insisted on speaking on background, meaning that they could not be quoted. Their level of candor varied, of course, and they were acutely aware that their comments could be used by President Obama's political opponents in the impending 2012 election. Nonetheless, most were willing to place at least some comments on the record. Does that sound like leaks to you?
No. Well, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about leaks. David Sanger is a very dogged reporter. There's no question he spent months working on this. Most people think that some administration official gets on the phone, calls up their favorite reporter and says, oh, hey, did you hear about such and such? It doesn't really work that way. It's usually because reporters are pressing, and inside the administration they have to make a decision about whether to talk to a particular reporter. David Sanger is someone who administration officials, particularly the White House, talk to. Because he's an important figure in the media in this town, and he's been doing this for a long time. But I have no doubt that it was mainly his reporting, probably piecing together different parts of conversations that, as he says, he had with many different administration officials. Now, that being said, what I'm trying to say, of course, is that it wasn't that someone, president or one of his top aides, simply said to David Sanger, we're going to tell you all about Stuxnet. It doesn't work that way. He was pressing, and at some point they decided to crack the door open a little bit on some of the aspects of the program. Now, that being said, however, there's no question that the Obama political team has been very eager to get out this image of the president as strong on national security. I mean, they've talked to me, they've talked to other reporters about how good a national security president, a commander-in-chief they think he is. And one of the most effective things that Obama has done in the last 3 years, frankly, is this covert program, particularly focused on drone strikes on al-Qaeda leadership. So, you know, they're trying to get that story out while at the same time not revealing classified information. It's a very, very tricky line to walk, and it's entirely possible that some officials working for the president stepped over the line, they appear to have, and revealed classified information that they shouldn't have talked about.
So we want to open up our phone lines and talk to you about this reporting of classified information. You, the citizen, and what your reaction is to it. Do you feel the country is benefited by knowing more about some of the covert programs that are going on, or are you concerned about national security? That's really the crux of the discussion here, as Washington is rattling its swords over the latest reporting on some classified programs to counteract terrorism. Phone lines are on the screen. You can also send us a tweet, and you can email us as well. To that end, the larger question, I want to show you this morning's opinion pages in the Baltimore Sun. Dutch Ruppensberger is on the House Intelligence Committee, and he's a leader of the House Intelligence Committee, and is a local congressman for them. Here's their editorial. It's called The Secret Wars. Congress is worried about leaks of classified information, but the bigger concern is the questions they raise about U.S. drone and cyber attacks. So their point is, they write, there's no doubt the White House's attitude about leaking classified material during this administration and others has been selective. President Obama, who promised transparency when running for office, has prosecuted more leakers than all of his predecessors combined. But his administration has also disclosed details of drone strikes, etc. The Bush administration likewise leaked intelligence information that bolstered its case for the war in Iraq. But the effort by Mr. Ruppensberger and his colleagues skirts a more fundamental question: what should be classified and what shouldn't? Inasmuch as recent leaks may have been a political dimension, they have also opened a window on a new and aggressive military action in nations with which we are not at war. They have exposed to the public view actions that have placed the U.S. in uncharted moral and strategic ground and which demand a fuller public debate. So we now know about the programs that gives this country an opportunity to say, do we like them? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the editorial really sums things up quite well. This does lead us into uncharted territories in terms of the new type of war that Obama is overseeing. It is largely a covert war, which means it's secret or supposed to be, and yet at the same time the president has felt compelled to justify it morally, which means he's directed some of his top people to speak about it. John Brennan, his counterterrorism coordinator, gave a speech some weeks back at the Wilson Center here in which he attempted to make just that justification, whereas for the previous 2 years the administration had steadfastly refused to talk about it. So there is a feeling that they need to talk about it in order to make the case of why it is necessary. But again, you run into the central contradiction, which Dianne Feinstein talked about in her news conference, which is intelligence and classified information are secret for a reason, because programs are more effective that way, because when those types of programs are revealed, people's lives can be put in danger. And reporters think about this all the time. Very often reporters, to an extent the public doesn't know about, will make decisions about not printing details of some operation, specifically because they realize they could put lives in danger. So it's a very, very tough tightrope walk that we do on these types of issues.
Well, I want to get to calls, but I want to show our audience, because now that you know more details, you've written a piece, as you headline it, in praise of cyber war. It's better than the alternative, how malware can actually help keep the peace. Let's take some calls, and then we'll come back and hear your argument on this. Kearney, Missouri. Beverly is a Democrat. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm all for knowing everything that our government is doing, secret or not. And if it puts somebody's life in jeopardy, I don't like that. But if we're going to have an honest government, then we need to be honest. And I'm glad that Obama felt it was a moral obligation to tell what he was doing, because if you don't, you've got Germany all over. Everything's secret, like the justices you were talking about earlier. It was when the far right in Germany took over that the judges went south. And now if our newspapers go south, well, we'll have the far-right country and a Holocaust all over again.
The unfinished business is a request for a recorded vote on Amendment Number 2, printed in House Report 112-518, offered by the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Brown, upon which further proceedings were postponed, and on which the ayes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment Number 2, printed in House Report Number 112-518, offered by Mr. Brown of Georgia.
Recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the recorded vote will rise and remain standing. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members record